If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another episode of Under the Radar. Well, the first of two episodes this week. I felt guilty that I couldn't do a full album review over the weekend, mostly because of my voice, and my voice is still not quite all the way back to 100%, even though it's really getting close. I just need to get rid of whatever's left in my system. But I felt good enough to finally do a video for you guys that wasn't that WrestleMania video I posted yesterday. I am doing, like I said, 2 episodes of Under the Radar, 3 albums each episode. You got an episode today and an episode on Thursday to talk about some albums that came out at the end of March on the 31st. So to kick things off, I'm going to talk about probably the biggest release that came out on March 31st, and I was originally going to do a full review for it. Rotten Sound with Apocalypse. So, yeah, long-time grindcore band out of Finland, and their brand of grindcore is very cool because they play with the Boss HM2 guitar pedals, so definitely that Swedish death metal guitar tone coming into their sound. And they're very, very similar to a band like Nasum, especially in the vocal delivery. It's more like gruffer, hardcore screams more than death growls. The type of vocals I prefer in grindcore is the death growls, but the way the vocalist does it here is really fucking unhinged. And of course, when it comes to grindcore, you're expected to hear some fast blast beats, some punky, thrashy moments. But here, they actually slow sections down quite a bit. You get more groove-laden stuff. Even at times, it gets a little doomy, which is really, really cool to hear. So, the fact that they were able to bring those influences into their grindcore is really, really cool. Of course, with me, I'm not a huge grindcore fan, apart from some of the big ones like Napalm Death, Nasum, Brutal Truth. I guess if you want to consider early Carcass or Terrorizer as grindcore, I guess you can. But I prefer my grind to be more death metal than grindcore straight up. But for straight up grindcore, this was some pretty good stuff. I give it an 8 out of 10. This was some solid, fast, under 21 minutes grindcore out of Finland. So, what more could you ask for? Excuse me. But now talking about the next album for part 1 of Under the Radar this week, Invicta with Triumph and Torment. So this band I got curious about. I first heard the name in random YouTube videos I was watching a long time ago. And apparently these guys are from Canada, and they were described as melodic thrash metal, which is accurate, but there's a lot of death metal on here. Like, I would call this more of a fusion of melodic death metal and thrash metal, because the melodies on this album are very prominent and executed quite well. And I bring in, like, the mellow death vibe because there are a lot of songs on this album that bring in some death metal triplet chugging sections, which is really, really cool, but mixed together with that thrash energy and also blast beats. And I also like how sometimes the guitar work can get a little bit technical in spots, kind of similar to a band like Revocation or even Ex Mortis. But I do hear quite a bit of like Modern Creator on here, and maybe even a little bit of Exodus. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of all 4 of those bands kind of combined. The production on this album, pretty solid, pretty solid mix. Like, the bass is audible, the drums are audible, pretty much everything is pretty well even in the mix. The only things I can maybe find to complain about is maybe Some songs did kind of start to sound the same a little bit, especially the shorter songs, but the longer tracks, they're able to really cram in a lot of different dynamics and tempo shifts. So for fans of Exodus, Creator, Revocation, and Ex Mortis, you will dig this one. 8.5 out of 10. This was some really good melodic death slash thrash, and can't go wrong with that. But now on to the final album of part 1 of Under the Radar this week, and that is Sermon with Of Golden Verse. So I got curious to check this one out, courtesy of Thralls of Metal. They did a review for this, and this is apparently one of the most mysterious bands in all of music right now, because not a whole lot's known about this band apart from maybe forming around 2018, 2019 out of Poland as drummer James Stewart, who, also in Decapitated is the drummer on this album. But this is progressive metal and alternative metal kind of mixed, so you would think, oh, this is probably Tool worship. Actually, no. I can't pinpoint a moment of this album where it would remind me of Tool. Honestly, this is kind of something of their own a little bit. Like, this is mostly about killer grooves, dynamics, awesome riff work. Like, the riff work on this album is top-notch, but also about atmosphere. And the vocals, they're filled with passion. Like, they're not cheesy, they're not super high range, they're all about carrying the narrative of the album. I can definitely pinpoint moments where it feels a little bit like, say, Catatonia or even Soen, but there were some, like, really cool riff structures that kind of made me think of Enslaved a little bit, but also even a little bit of, like, what would happen if an Abstract Illusion wasn't a death metal band and was just straight up prog. Like, this is kind of what it would feel like. Like, the final track flat out gets blast beats and death growls in there. So that was like one of the only death metal oriented songs for a prog alternative metal band. But holy shit, like the songwriting of this album, they're able to take the idea, as Geddy Lee said, the idea of being progressive, but doing it in a way that you wouldn't expect people to be progressive musically. Like, there's no, like, super long songs on here. Like, I think the longest track is, like, a little over 7 minutes, but they're able to have a lot of dynamic shifts, tempo changes, and just focus primarily on creating a mood with the riffs. And for those reasons, I give this one a 9 out of 10. This was some fantastic prog alternative metal mashed together. So if you are a fan of bands like Catatonia, Soen, maybe a little bit of the riffage of Enslaved and some of the dreariness of, say, an Abstract Illusion, this is definitely going to be up your alley. But anyways, that does it for part 1 of Under the Radar this week. I will be back for part 2 on Thursday. Hopefully by then, my voice will be back all the way and I don't sound like a fucking chain smoker. So, yeah. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.